Now, Johny, you said you worked with the CIA and did something called snatch and grabs. Could you talk a little bit about that and what you did for the CIA
Yeah.
exactly?
Well, yeah. What we did was we well the with the intelligence we had a black list and we had a grey list, and if anybody's name came up, because we had Vietnamese interpreters, we had documents come in, we had people we caught, captured, interrogated in our way, and we didn't torture them. Uh, uh, well, that's not just I'll have to diversify there because half our unit was Vietnamese, and they did use torture. And in fact, I was there one night, and my boss, Captain Bosco, and another guy, Kyle Leach, were there. Kyle Leach and I won some award for something or other. I don't know what the award was. I don't even know what it was that we won the award for, but I never got it anyway. Uh, but Captain Chung, Dai Wee Chung, he said to everybody there, look, we've used torture with prisoners, but he said, we're not going to use torture from this point onwards. And the reason was, Captain Bosco, my boss, said, if you give me information, that's to this Vietnamese side of his unit, and I know you've used torture to get that information, I will not use it, even though Australian soldiers might die as a result. He said, I refuse to use information that got through torture. So Dai Wee Chung said, we will never use torture again. We'll use whatever means, but we won't use torture. So that I know. Another time, I took a prisoner to Binham province, the Americans, and this guy, I couldn't speak Vietnamese, he couldn't speak much English, but we shared a cigarette on a helicopter, and I was to take him up there and sign him off, and it was about a 40-minute trip on a helicopter. And I arrived there and I'm signing the papers to sign him over, and I'm in this office and I hear this almighty screams and screams and screams. What's going on? He said, oh, that guy you just bought, they're ringing him up. I said, well, yeah, that's torturing him. You know, they got electrodes to his testicles and ringing him up on an electrical thing. I thought, the guy, they wouldn't even know his name. They're already torturing him, you know. Oh, and I was so angry. The thing is, if they'd have been out, I shot them, but I couldn't, because I mean, I wouldn't have got to the helicopter, and it was waiting. And so anyway, I was totally impotent. I couldn't help the guy, and I could hear the guy screaming. And contrarily, we had a guy called Keat. He had 13 spies, his own group, and we had him. But in our unit, we gave him the run of the unit. He couldn't leave the unit, but we had our weapons there and this and that, but we treated him. We had a party. He was there. We got drunk. He was there. We ate, he ate with us. He ate the same food as us, but he gave us all this information. Now, the Americans had him for a week, and I know they tortured him, and he refused to give them any information, and they sent him back to us. But he gave us he gave us books of information, but nothing about the 13 spies that he had. We didn't ask him. We respected him. We didn't. But he gave us all this information. So it was gaining the person's confidence and so forth. And like I remember saying to Keat, I said, mate, he said to us, he said, look, at a party, he said, we'll outlast you. He said, you won't last us. He said, we will outlast you. And I said, well, you know, you might cop it, Keat. He said, doesn't matter. He said, but we'll outlast you. And they did. And so that was it's a very personal thing, you know, and there's no like life. There's no black or white. It's all shades of grey, you know. And people, you know, there's no good person. There's no bad person. Everyone has a capacity to do good, and everyone has a capacity to do evil or wrong. And you know, and most of us, I've done my fair share of both. So, am I a good person or a bad person? Well, mate. I've done my bad things. I've fed the beast, and you know, but I've done some good too. You know, so
Right.
And that applies to everybody. I don't find anybody's completely either black or white. You know,
Oh yeah,
evil or.
definitely. Now you were in 3 wars. You were in Korea, Vietnam, and what was the third one?
Indonesian confrontation.
Indonesian confrontation. Now,
That was
what?
when,
Go ahead.
yeah. Well, actually, what that was when the America, England, and various countries, and Malaysia wanted to be a separate country, and Indonesia didn't want that because Indonesia is next to Malaysia, and they thought that'd be a military threat. So President Sukarno, the president of the time, and he started the conference. They called it the confrontasi, the confrontation with Malaysia and Borneo, and so that went on for a number of years, and there was a Malaysian. There was a major Malaysian war and the Indonesian confrontation. They more or less got combined. The Malaya was just communist insurgents, and but what happened? That was because you have insurgents in both in Afghanistan and Vietnam, and it's interesting because the English, they were the only ones who actually had a counterinsurgency war that was won by the Allies. And what they did was they simply, which didn't happen in Vietnam. I spoke again. I think I spoke to the CIA guys about this. I mean, these are a couple of heads of the CIA who came there, and I said, why didn't you do it like in Malaya? Because in Malaya they took all the people out of the small villages and put them in larger towns, but they secured them. They made them absolutely secure. They gave them houses. They put the kids in school. They gave the kids an education. Everyone was well fed, but you were locked off from the countryside. So their idea was you chop the head off and you separate it from the body, and literally they starved the people out, the insurgents, because they couldn't get. Insurgency only works when they can get amongst the people by day or by night to get food, medicine, and also give their propaganda and kill any of their enemies. So when you separate that, and the insurgents can't get at the people, the insurgency, you've taken the power away from the insurgency. So when they did that, and then they just literally they just take parts of the area that was occupied by the insurgents, and they just dropped paratroopers out of the planes, and they'd land straight into the jungle, and some have been caught in trees and so forth. So but it was successful anyhow. That it just petered out until there was only about 20 left at the end. The leader was a guy called Chin Peng, and he just surrendered, and that was the end of that. But that never happened, And what the English did was they made the people, the inhabitants, secure. Now, in Vietnam, that never happened. You wiped out the villages that belonged to these people. You never made them secure. They had the Americans and the Vietnamese by day, and then they had the Viet Cong by night, and very much the same in Afghanistan. There's an old saying: you build your castle first, then you sally forth. You build that castle, then you go out into the outside, and then you take over bit by bit. But you build that castle first, and that's what the English did. They made their areas secure for the people. And if you, in a counterinsurgency, in an insurgency war, in any war, if you don't, it's really a hearts and minds situation to get the people behind you. And if you can't do that, you're not going to win the war. And with drones floating around there, and nobody's, with you, doesn't matter what side you're on. When you've got a drone overhead, you're scared. It doesn't matter whether you're this side or that side. So it's all counterproductive. It's counterproductive. And it's all. Look, essentially, it's about people. Have you looked after the people? Yes or no? Or did you make it secure for them? Yes or no? If you haven't, well, mate, don't expect to win. And I don't feel, it's not. They're not wars like in Korea or in the Second World War where you were full frontal attacks and there's the enemy and there you are. These are wars to do with people's minds. Even in America today or Australia or anywhere, there's a war going on, with information, disinformation. It's about people and people's minds and people, how they feel, how secure they feel, how do they feel about the future, so.
I definitely have to agree with you on that one, and I want to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But first, I want to know, when did your involvement with the military end, and how did it come to an end?
Uh, I literally finished 6 years when I joined up for the last time. I did 6 years. It came to an end, and then I was, well, that's not entirely true. I was then as an instructor, part-time instructor in Army intelligence, and I did that. But then I was into well, I had to support a family, so I started my own business. I was in jewelry, sculpture, stuff like that, and opal, mainly opals. So I just went full time with that, and I grew a beard just to show I was no longer in the military. And although I I did sign up for I got a bit bored, and I thought, oh, it wouldn't hurt to go. And there was in Africa, there was a few wars going on. I thought, oh, I might join them, and all this as a mercenary, which I'm not, I'm not particularly proud of. But it was more. I wasn't thinking about that. I just wanted a bit of adventure. I just like was, civilian life was killing me, boring. And but anyway, I said to my and there was at the time that the Arabs in the Gulf states, they had some counterinsurgency wars, and some Australians used to go over there. Even some army officers and men in their 3 weeks leave, they'd go over there and fight for the Gulf states against the insurgents there in their holidays. And I thought, oh, I could do that. So I told my wife, and she said, don't be a bastard all your life. She said, let the kids finish their high school, then you can do what you like. So I said, okay, fair enough. Let's be sensible about this. So that was the end of it, Chris. I said, can't be a bastard all your life. Yeah. So anyway, so that was the end of that. And in fact, I really became very anti-military. I wouldn't watch like a war movie or anything.
Well, I was just about to ask you what changed your mind about, or basically opened your eyes to the way the military really operates when it comes to these wars that we've been involved with, and that we're still involved with, basically.
Well, you've got I don't know where it is. He's the highest American decorated. He had 2 Congressional Medals of Honor. But anyhow, the book that he wrote, it's only about a 100-page book called Wars Are a Racket. So, I was pretty much well aware of that because I could see corruption and different things like that. But really, it's when you start to write and investigate, and I love history and military history. So when you go into that, then you just realize. I mean, Churchill, after the First World War, he said, we killed the wrong people, meaning they should have killed the banking system, the bankers. He said, they're the ones they should have killed. He said, we killed the wrong people. In any war, business people become millionaires, and if there's another war, those millionaires become billionaires. So this is normal. And it doesn't matter where you are. And today, you've got this the military industrial complex of different countries, and there's all the stuff. I mean, now I can't tell you what it is at the moment, but certainly about 15 years ago, the Americans used to loan Israel $75 million a year to support it. But the thing is, the rider is that 75% of that 75 million had to be used to buy American weapons for Israel.